Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Transformers Devastation Magnus Difficulty walkthrough. This is Chapter 1, it is the City of Steel, and it is Part 2. So I'm driving around this area, smashing benches, picking up chests, and just generally doing the kind of Transformery thing you're going to do for most of the game. And I find it really fun. I love the loot. I love breaking things and getting currency that works towards certain, parts of the game. I'm kind of addicted to the slot machine of getting the tech items and doing the stopping the bar to get those new tech equipment. A little tip for people who are not too sure what the stats do, because I didn't either until I read a lot of the tooltips. The rank at the bottom of your statistics is going to enable you to equip more of the tech accessories. So you want to level it up to as high as it can go so that you can get the maximum amount of profit. And it's just going to give you so many advantages. It's really cool. You'll notice that I've also changed weapons here. I have an electricity gun that I'm experimenting with. You're going to see a lot of experimentation here because that's what it's all about. Seeing what's cool, finding new shit, and hopefully getting some good stuff. However, you are going to see me use that dark sword for quite a long time because it's just so damn effective. And I think that's one of the more disappointing aspects of the loot, is when you've got a weapon that's got 2,000 damage and you're picking up stuff that's only got 1,000 damage, there's really no incentive to use the other stuff. Other than if you put a lot of time into building it up through synthesis, which I should really talk about synthesis a little bit. So, when I first played the game, I wasted a lot of time just synthesizing trash into better weapons to try and see what I could do with them. Having played the game for a little while now, I would advise against doing that. I would advise against getting a weapon that's got good statistics for quite a low level. Anything that's level 8 or level 12 that has really high damage compared to something else that's high level is a good base starting weapon. And then you want to just put whatever weapon's got the highest stats or the best abilities into that weapon. And what will happen is, once you've got a really cool weapon that does you awesome justice, you're going to find another badass weapon that has low level, tons of slots, and it's as strong as the weapon you're using. Then you want to synthesize the weapon you're using into the new one and just keep on building on that foundation. And in the end, you're going to have some really sick tools. Another good strategy is to buy weapons from the shop that either have good stats or have good abilities to augment into your weapons, but that will come later on when you've got a little bit more credits under your belt, as I'm using a rocket launcher here that I actually really don't like. 74 missiles, but they're all weak as piss, so it takes forever. Like, one of the things that can be really frustrating on this game is if you pick the wrong gun, like you're experimenting with something, because you feel like you've got half an arsenal, because the guns are incredibly effective. Additionally too, folks, a lot of fights on this game are skippable. The only fights that are not skippable are the ones that have the honeycomb barricade stopping you from doing it. There was the overdrive move completely whiffing on a wall-mounted enemy, which is a little bit frustrating. But do you see there? Focus, rush attack, vehicle attack, stuns. Each one of those parameters, when you do them during a fight, it adds incrementally to those scores. So just as long as you do a lot of those things mentioned, it doesn't really matter how you play. And I think that's a little bit choice to me. Like, I think the no damage bonus should be higher, because if you no damage a fight and you get a good time bonus and you've done a lot of different things, not getting the top rank to me sounds bizarre. And I'm really curious to see what the stipulations are, because maybe you've got to do something like above the call or something just really weird. But here is the first difficult fight of the difficulty relay. Because this is two enemies that are very fast, very damaging, and they have quite a lot of life. And depending on how good your character is statistically, and depending on how good your weapon is, will depend on how much you have to hit these guys. And you notice, they will shit stomp you off screen. Just wait for it. Like, straight up, something is... Oh, there was the crane. There it was. Just cruises in, sword slashes. So, you will get a kind of a sixth sense to when people are going to start doing shit, and you'll start evading mid-combo or when you think you're about to get hit. Because, trust me, it'll happen a lot. See then, it showed you the arrow telling you that somebody's approaching, so just get the hell out of there. Another one just then. telling me that he's on his way. Like, you can combat it in a lot of ways. It's just if they decide to shoot you with a gun, good luck. Because if it doesn't do that red icon, there's nothing really that you can do. But when it's just one of them, you can really go to town on them and use the different moves. Like, look, it just... You wouldn't think that that was an ultimate attack, would you? It literally did less than a full combo. Just, it's so weird. So weird. I love this move too. But I didn't do anything after it, which is a shame. But the Destructicon that's the worst is the jizzing one. I hate that dump truck, toxic waste one who splashes you with that green stuff. He is the biggest troll in this game. Anything that does the stuff that he does, the drill one's bad as well, because it digs holes in the floor, and if you step on them, it does damage and it immobilizes you. Like, this game even has status effects. It goes full-blown RPG, and you can really tell that Platinum don't have that much experience with RPGs, because all of the RPG elements are not as good as the combat. The combat is the highest echelon of combat. There are only a few niggles with it, but the RPG it's very new, it's very raw, and it's still enjoyable, and there's still a lot of fun to it, but you'll notice the synthesis menu is clunky as hell. It's really awkward and unintuitive. You can't break down weapons or sell weapons in bulk, so you have to do it all individually. Like, there are a lot of areas that don't necessarily explain themselves too well. Like the stats. The stats is a great one. You have all these stats to level up, and it's not entirely clear on what they do. And even on Dark Souls, a game that prides itself on being eclectic, you could highlight the statistic and it would tell you what it does. And I found no way to do that on this game, so I would literally level them up and stare to see what they did. And I still don't know what half of them do, because I didn't really spend that much money. Like, Fire Blast does melee attacks and ranged attacks, and it's the only thing I would recommend leveling up, because in my book, what's the point in life and defense when I can just not get hit? Or I can get hit just enough times not to die. Like, a lot of the fights, if I was, trying to get really good runs, the moment I got touched, I would restart. And you're going to have to do that if you run rank on this game, because you get bonuses at the end, and those bonuses are going to add to your level bonus, which is going to help you get the SS rank overall. And it's things like killing all the enemies, never dying, doing all the side missions, completing the map, and weird things like that, and it all adds together for your overall rank to be increased. Which I have no idea how that works. It's just one of the things that I read on Activision's website, because they were giving away like free tips for the game. And they do it does explain quite a lot, but there's still a lot of stuff that's not really explained. But if you're looking for a good way of farming, the only real way that I've found is a particular side mission on this where you can drive through those boxes for about 15 minutes. And if you kit your character out with tech that's nothing but, plus 100% credits or plus 70% credits, 80, 90, whatever you've got. Oh, by the way, did you see that? When I step forward, I trigger the fight, and it makes the ground pound thing disappear. Look at it. It's literally an enemy trip point. I wish it didn't work like that. You see that? This is another one. This despawns the enemies. So you go to your left, starts the fight. You come back to where I am, up over here, disappears everything. Completely despawns the fight. That's bad. That should be nowhere near as transparent as that. Like, look at it. That is really bad. And you might be thinking, well, Chris, all games do that. They do. Literally every single game ever made has a scripting system similar to that. There is a way to turn the scripting on, and there is probably a way somewhere to turn it off. But it's about making it intuitive and hiding it. You don't want to see that unless you're looking for it, and then you don't want to be able to find a way to stop it so easily. Like, Ninja Gaiden's a great example for that. There were sequences in that game where you could spawn enemies, run away, save, reload the game, and the enemies would be gone. Like, sometimes the enemies would just disappear if you ran far enough away and you came back. Like, there were lots of really strange situations where that would happen. And you could use it to make the game easier. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's how you want to play. It's just, I want to have to earn it. I don't want to just walk 5 feet to my left and boom, I've just broke your game. And there's quite a lot of that in this. But is it still goddamn fun? Hell yes. And I'm in love with it. But not having the right gun for the right situation is one of the worst parts. And the projectiles are one of the best parts of the game. They're really intuitive. I wish you could remap the buttons so that I could put in my controls the way I want them to be, but when you pick your control layout, it says custom buttons or custom layout, press a button, and when you press it, it doesn't let you change anything. It's really strange. Because I wanted the gun to be on left trigger, and then fire gun right trigger. Or it could have even been right bumper, I don't think that would have bothered me, but I wanted it to be hold left trigger to aim, and then maybe left bumper for the overdrive move. But the controls that I swapped it to were essentially Dark Souls. I now have the left bumper to aim and the right bumper to fire, which I don't think it's very fun or comfortable, but because I've played so many Souls games, I'm kind of used to it. And the reason I did this, if you're wondering, is because there is no way in hell am I going to be pressing the right bumper to dodge in a game where you spend 90% of the time dodging if you're playing on the harder difficulties. All that's going to do is cramp your finger and make you hate the controller that you're playing on, unless you're playing on a controller that's got good R1s, like the PlayStation 4. Like, PS4's got really good R1. Xbox 360 doesn't. Xbox One, even worse. So, I would rather have it on a trigger. Even though, which is super anal, the time to press the button will be longer when it's not a bumper because you have further to travel, because it's quite a deep trigger. If that was just like a PlayStation 2 controller, which I think is one of the best controllers ever made, I don't know why they changed those triggers, they worked perfectly, that would be even faster still, because there's no resistance. You press, boom, you're done. There's none of that going in, then clicking. And then when you combine that with the millisecond delay between your controller to your game, between your game to your TV, like so many factors that people don't even think about because a lot of the times you don't need to, it all adds up. How many times have you pressed dodge, you knew it was a good dodge, and you still got hit? Like, that can literally be the monitor that you're playing on, or the 50-inch television that's got a whole bunch of shit in the background doing post-production to make your video look nice, but it's also adding so much delay, it's not even funny. And it sounds like nothing, and it's something that a lot of players will never even know exists and never care, but if you know it exists, it can completely change how you approach situations. But... oh, by the way, if you go into the Ark, it will refill your life. You will come out of it with full life, so that's a really good way of getting a free heal if you want to experiment, if you want to farm, whatever you want to do. Additionally, you want to get into the habit of using the items that give you more credits, that give you better drops, that give you more weapon drops, when you're just moving around the town and killing standard dudes, because it's all going to help, and you get a ton of them. But I've already mentioned my gripe with the repair kits, which are automatic, and I don't think you can turn them off. Oh, this is me using the grappling hook and not really understanding what it does. And it can work, but I think you have to hold the trigger. That's what I'm doing wrong, you see. If you hold the trigger, it'll pull him towards you. And what I was doing with it to experiment, because this is me just experimenting with more guns. When you're in the middle of a combo, if you use the grappling hook, you can reset people and then go back into another combo. But every so often it doesn't work. They'll armor, they'll counter, things like that. And Bumblebee has a very similar ability too. When you're comboing somebody, instead of going into a vehicle attack, do his overdrive move, where he slides under them, because it will put them into kind of a stunned state where you can combo them again. And you can kind of do it repeatedly. So slide under them, combo them, vehicle attack, juggle, 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 then do that move again, hop over them, reset them, and you can do this to bosses. But here are the, are these Constructicons, Deconstructicons? The naming scheme in this series is not my strong suit. But another thing as well, did you see what he did then? The enemies will parry your vehicle attacks because they're so much better at fighting. You need to be aware of this because it doesn't necessarily mean everything's guaranteed. Did it again, got out of it. But the good thing about this enemy is when he gets close, you know he's going to do that melee attack, and the melee attack is just quick enough. As soon as you see him move dodge, and you'll get the free Bumble Netta time, Witch time, Robot time, Cyber time, I don't know what it is. That was a wonderful projectile from off screen. Also, do you see how he's got that gold aura around him? That means he's in a stunned, vulnerable state. At that point, I do not think he can do any kind of counter to you. So that's when you want to do your launches and you want to get experimenting with that. One thing you're not going to see here is too much rush combo cancelling, because I couldn't find a move with Optimus to do it with. because I already had this pattern with Bumblebee, you see, where I would do a single vehicle attack, and then afterwards I would charge the overdrive move and the rush combo, and then cancel out of it. So I actually had a pretty tough time transitioning to Optimus, because he's a lot slower. But he's really strong, like super strong. And I found something out today. You cannot do Megatron on the final level unless you play as Optimus. Because I played the entire game as Bumblebee on Prime difficulty, and on that final fight I was Optimus by default. That was the move where he puts you in the ground, a douchebag. That one thing ruined the fight. I was so sad. But if I was going for rank, it would have been a reset, but I'm not, so it's okay. So now we get to torment him. That right there was me pressing Tatsuzanko, and it didn't do anything. This is just amazing. Love everything about it. And then you can come after that and do the rush combo if you do it right. I didn't do it at all as correct as I should have. But then I shoot him, and we get a crappy A rank. But there goes another one of the compartments done. But another thing to bear in mind with this game is, during a mission like this, if you backtrack, you will run into areas where there will be main missions that are optional. And some of them are just fights, some of them are weird races, and a lot of them involve shooting stuff. And if you bring the wrong gun, God help you, because some of them are really tricky. And you're going to see a mixture of me doing them, and sometimes I don't do them. And it all depends on my gear. And a lot of this game is like that. Like, depending on what you're using will depend on just how easy your time will be. There are moments where you can have a really tough time because you just don't have the right setup. And it doesn't mean you can't be effective and you can't win, it just means you're going to have to work at it a little bit harder than you would if you had perhaps a better gun. Or those signs as well. If you shoot those nodes and they do that flicker like that one did, it means you've already done it. The level design on this game is pretty subpar for the most, even though I do enjoy it. I think it's perfectly suitable for what it is. I just don't think there was enough environments, and I don't think it was ambitious enough. And I should probably elaborate on that. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with the level design, but I don't think you can argue against the point that this could literally have come from the PS2 generation of game design, where the levels were second to giving you an opportunity to do whatever the game did well. So for this is an action game where you fight things. The fighting is amazing, so all you're really doing is wasting time until your next fight. Every so often a game will put something interesting in there, and that's where, you know, really, really cool design happens. But for the most, you are going from A to B to do this, because this is why you're playing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but in today's gaming, where games do so much all the time, I think it's not enough. And Bayonetta did more, Wonderful 101 did more, Metal Gear Rising did more. Like, it makes me wonder why it's so limited. And my first reaction is, well, this game kind of came out of nowhere. You know, we didn't hear too much about it, and then we heard about it, and then it kind of came out 6 months later. They said it was going to be a full retail game, it had a full dev cycle. I haven't researched it enough, guys, so I don't know too much. By the way, this dude has wicked armor. He will armor through moves, he will armor through vehicle attacks. Be careful of Dump Truck Man, he's a douche. Very dangerous. The other guy is just a bitch who likes chucking custard, so kill him later, or kill him first. But look how much I have to hit them too. These guys have got a real inflation on the old stats. Because this game has what I call Metal Gear Rising syndrome. Metal Gear Rising is a game that had no rights being as good as it was, because Platinum had no time at all to work on it. That's why the game is so short. But it's still amazing, and I love it to death. This game is kind of like that in a way, where it does this one thing really well, and it kind of just focused on this one thing. And whereas it does have more scope in certain areas, like the RPG elements are much more diverse, the items, the leveling, all that kind of stuff, the progression in it is way more ambitious. But everything else, it's on par with Rising, and Rising was this budget, I say budget, it had probably a big budget, but it was in development hell for a long time. And it's like the first 3 levels are about an hour each. They really feel big, like you're doing stuff, like they last a while if you're taking your time when you're exploring. And then the last bunch are like 20 minutes each. One of them's like 10 minutes long if you destroy the bosses. it just doesn't make sense. It's really top heavy. The front end is stacked, and then it just blows its load and then blows its load again. It's literally that scene in American Pie where Jason Biggs' is, he's going out with Nadia and hoping to get a little bit of the old, American Pie, apple pie, and it just doesn't really work out. And I don't get why. And I'm going to have to look into, dev cycle, budgets, that kind of stuff. Maybe Activision wanted it out too soon. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if a part of this game was held off for DLC so they can sell us extra stuff. Because they took the price away from it. Did you notice? It wasn't a full, $60. And I would have paid $60 for it because I think it's a great game. I'm going to buy this game on the Xbox 360 just to play through it and get the achievements again, because I love the game that much. And I know it's going to be 60 frames per second. It might not look as pretty, but it's going to be 60, and that's all that matters. As long as it moves and it feels the same, I'm happy. But I don't understand it. Because if you think, there's so much scope to Transformers, why wasn't there a level at sea on, aircraft carriers or something? Why wasn't there a level in the sky? Or, insert generic, stereotypical level, why are we not here? Why wasn't there a desert level? A volcano level? It doesn't matter. Wonderful 101 did that exact same thing. There's no reason to be in a crazy Amazonian jungle. There's no reason to be in a frozen ice kingdom. You're just kind of there. And it's silly. And it works. Because the only reason you're there is to kick ass. So, I don't get where the scope went. Why didn't you fight an enemy the size of a planet? There must be some kind of Transformer that's super huge. You could have fought him in space. Why was there no space combat? Why did you not go to a different planet? Why? So many whys, and I couldn't honestly tell you guys. But at the same time, the game is still really fun. Most of the levels reuse this city. Then you go into the kind of inside place where it's all Megatron-y and energy surgy, and all that stuff's not very fun, I don't think, level-wise. And then they do the city again, and it's got different lighting. But for the most, it's this. And there's nothing wrong with this, I just don't see the heart. I haven't watched a Transformers cartoon in 20 years. Maybe longer. But I know if I watched one, it'd at least give us a few different places that they could have gone to. It didn't really matter. It could have been different, and it just wasn't, because they were focusing on other elements, of course. And you've got to ask yourself this. Would you rather it have crazy different, diverse environments with maybe a little bit more platforming, maybe a little bit more driving, but the combat wasn't as sharp or as refined or as intuitive and responsive? Because I fucking wouldn't. That's the one thing Platinum knows is great. Same with the frame rate. Would you want different levels, a bigger scope in things, but it to have really intermittent frame rate and be capped at 30 at best? I wouldn't. And I literally think that must be it. Platinum are a pretty small team. This is their B team, as people like to make out, which is not a derogatory term. This is the same team that made Metal Gear Rising for the most. Same director, probably a couple of different people working on it. Still a really gifted team, with a decent budget from Activision, making a great game. And they've focused on, it looks wonderful, it's got a really nice aesthetic, it's got 60 frames per second, it's got really interesting, nuanced combat that's a mixture of Bayonetta and other things. And what is in the game is really fun. But I think for a lot of people, they're not going to get the same appreciation that perhaps somebody who knows Platinum or somebody who really likes these action games is going to get. And I know this for a certain because I was watching DSP play this game. And he went on to say, the entire time when he's playing it, he's saying how amazing it is, how great it is, how much fun he's having. And then when he reviewed it, he went on to say, there's no reason to replay it more than once. He went on to say, there's not enough environments, there's not this, there's not that. It's really repetitive. And it's just literally that thing of everybody, feels something different towards certain games. I don't think these games get repetitive because I play them for the combat. And the combat is ballet at a certain point. At times it can be mechanical, at times it can be reactionary based, reflex based, but for the most, it is a dance with the enemy where you react to what they do, and they do rock, you do paper. That is what it is. Super fast and really stylish looking. And I don't think that ever gets boring. But I've heard people who think that the combat in Batman is boring because it's just, it's just this rhythm game of back and forth. There's not real much to it. And I understand that completely, but I never get bored of it because I find it really fun and satisfying. So it literally is one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And speaking of terrorists, these jets are doing flybys, dive bombing me, and I'm trying to shoot them with guns that just are not up to the job. You can completely skip this. So if you don't want to do this, skip them. There's no reason to fight them other than I wanted to show you a couple of ways that you could do it. Which is you can shoot them, or you can get bullet time then shoot them. You can even get bullet time and then attack them. Which I'm calling it bullet time and I don't know why. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called focus, actually. That's a lie. It is called focus. You see that? This is another example of really stupid spawns. You run over here, they put a bunch of cock-blocking snipers, you go to beat them up because why would you shoot people that have got better aim than you? I'll never understand that. And then they disappear. You know, those eyes, they disappear. Who hit us today, Max? Those eyes, they disappear. Like, it's, really annoying. And then I'd try and do the third-person clipping thing, and it's just not really working. But I thought this game was going to have a true last boss, because at the end, spoiler alert, there is this cutscene that shows you deep in the heart of the Metatron or whatever, you know, Transformers Law 101 that I have no idea of because I wasn't paying attention as a kid. There's this crazy looking, like, he looks like a Gundam, dude, he looks beast. I think he's called Nova Prime. He's one of the older Primes, and if you follow the story, he tried to terraform Earth into another Cybertron, and it turns out he's not a very good dude because he was like influenced by some crazy, I don't know, spirit or whatever, some creature that's darker than darkness itself. And it shows you him, and his eyes turn on, and then it goes to the credits. And I found the last boss to be really underwhelming and really easy. I actually no damaged in my first attempt, which is something I never do. Like, I can get pretty good at a game, but I'm not going to do that shit on my first attempt. It just doesn't work that way. And that's what I did. I embarrassed him. I absolutely stomped him. Like, this guy, the first fight against Devastator, when I first picked the game up and I started on commander mode with no weapons, this dude killed me like 15 times. I must have been on him for 40 minutes at the very beginning of the game because I didn't know how to play and I was getting beat up. Last boss, shit on him in less than 5 minutes. It was wonderful. It was that cathartic moment of I've got better at this game and, you know, my effort has been rewarded with skill, which is cool. So I'm thinking, there was no over-the-top, you know, planet-destroying last boss where you do crazy, massive shit and you throw satellites at each other. And there was quite a lot of that in Metal Gear Rising, so I thought there would be some of that in this. And it turns out that they went for a more reserved last boss. So I thought, beat it on its hardest difficulty, that guy's going to be a boss, like a secret boss. And he's not. And I was really disappointed. And they've even got this picture of him where he's got weird wings. And he looks like Gundam Wing Zero. He really does. He looks beast. And I have no idea if you can unlock that guy, but... Oh, by the way, that's for knocking him down 3 times. I apologise, I've got my notifications on. I didn't think I'd get any achievements because they seem really, really eclectic. And it turns out almost every main boss fight I get an achievement for beating it without taking damage. So the cool part is, these are strategies that will help you get those achievements or trophies. The bad part is, you're going to get these big pink pop-ups on this video, which it does look unprofessional, I will agree. But something I've not mentioned, which is one of my favourite parts of the game. When you dodge a move and you get focus... Oh, there was another one. Hawkeye. I think that's headshots, that one. Yeah, it is. If you immediately go into aiming your gun, instead of waiting for the evade to finish and attacking, you will do a crazy max pain bullet time shoot dodge that looks amazing. It's really powerful too, because the guns on this game, if you spec correctly and you've got an SS tier gun with like 4,000 damage, you could do massive damage on a crate. Like, really, really big damage. And it lets you fire faster than the gun would normally fire, it seems. Like, you can fire quite a lot. And I love it. I love it to death. But it can be quite tricky to pull off. But strategy here is, when he gets his drills, he gets more aggressive. And at the end of this fight, he will get a 3-hit combo, which is the fastest thing you've seen so far. It comes out really quick. The good news is, if you played Bayonetta 2, there is nothing in this game that is as fast as Aza was, or a couple of those attacks on the hardest difficulty, because that was so fast I couldn't react. It made me feel like an old man, that game, because it was too fast. Way too fast. You had to predict you couldn't react, I don't think, unless you're some like super Korean kid, maybe. But that's the end of City of Steel, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy this walkthrough, because we have another one coming on an even harder difficulty, playing as Bumblebee. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this game, because I love it. And I've been massively critical of it, but the things that I've chosen to criticise are very small in the grand scheme of what this game does. It is a wonderful game, and I don't understand anybody who would not enjoy it, unless it's just not your thing. So at least check it out. If you don't like it, that's fine, but give it a chance, because it's just... For the music alone, this game makes you feel like a badass when you're playing, and you don't have to be good, you don't have to play it on a super hard difficulty. There's tons of, more manageable difficulties, there's tons of items to help you if you're struggling. Like, there is something in this game for everybody. It's that good, and I love it. So thanks for watching, you take care now.